Stephanie, the only daughter of billionaire Mr. Robinson, falsely accuses her loyal driver Fraud of rape. Her lies send him to prison for 9 long years. Stephanie had wanted Fraud for herself, but he kept rejecting her advances. Her admiration for him soon turned into deep hatred, leading her to ruin his life. 3 years later, Fraud is back, this time for revenge. But will he finally get justice? Prepare for a shocking story as it unfolds with twists of betrayal, love, and the influence of money. Watch as the truth unfolds in ways no one saw coming. Stephanie, the beautiful and sophisticated daughter of the wealthy businessman Mr. Robinson, walked gracefully down the long hallway of their grand mansion. As she moved toward her driver's room, her heart felt light, and she hummed a cheerful tune. She had a message from her dad to give him. When she got to the door, she didn't knock. Instead, Stephanie turned the doorknob and walked in, but the sight in front of her made her freeze. Fraud, the family driver, was just stepping out from the bathroom with no clothes on, unsuspecting of anyone coming. Stephanie saw him and let out a sharp gasp. Her hand flew to her mouth as she gasped, frozen in place. Fraud also stood still, his eyes wide with shock and embarrassment. Fraud's face turned pale as he realized she had seen him like this. His heart pounded. I didn't know you were here," he stammered, his voice unsteady. Panic rushed through him as he quickly turned back into the bathroom and grabbed a towel. Moments later, he stepped out, with a towel wrapped around his waist. But Stephanie was still there, staring at him. Her eyes were intense, almost like they could see right through him. Fraud cleared his throat, trying to ease the thick silence. "Stephanie, please, leave." "This isn't right," he said firmly, but Stephanie didn't move. Instead, she slowly reached back and closed the door. The soft click of the lock echoed through the small room. She started walking toward him, her steps slow and intentional. Her eyes stayed locked on his, unblinking. Fraud stepped back, his hands trembling as tension filled the air. "What are you doing, Stephanie?" Fraud asked, his voice barely a whisper. Stephanie's lips curled into a slow, knowing smile. "I want you," she said softly, her voice calm yet unsettling. Fraud's heart pounded hard against his chest. He shook his head quickly, panic rising within him. No, Stephanie, don't say that," he pleaded. "This is wrong," Fraud said, his voice tense. "I'm engaged, and you're too young for this. You're only 17. But Stephanie didn't stop. She stepped closer, her voice calm but firm. "If you don't do what I want, I'll tell my dad you forced me." Fraud's face turned pale. You can't do that," Fraud whispered, his voice filled with shock and disbelief. Stephanie didn't answer. She was now standing right in front of him, her eyes locked onto his, challenging him to resist. Panic gripped Fraud. His hands trembled as he gently pushed her away. "No, Stephanie, stop this, please. This isn't right." Stephanie stumbled back but quickly steadied herself, her gaze still fixed on him. Stephanie's face twisted with anger. Suddenly she grabbed her dress and tore it apart. "Help! Help!" she screamed as loud as she could. "He's hurting me!" Fraud's heart nearly stopped. His eyes widened in shock. "What are you doing?" he shouted, desperation in his voice. "Stop this, Stephanie!" But she didn't stop. Stephanie screamed even louder, her voice echoing through the walls. Fraud panicked and rushed toward her, desperate to stop the chaos. "Please, Stephanie, stop shouting," he begged, his hands shaking as he tried to cover her mouth. But Stephanie fought back, pushing him away and screaming even louder. Suddenly, the door burst open with a loud bang. Standing there was Mr. Robinson, her father. Mr. Robinson's eyes burned with rage as he took in the scene before him. Fraud stood there, wearing only a towel, his hands reaching towards Stephanie. She looked shaken, her dress torn, tears streaming down her face. For a moment, everything went still. The air was heavy with tension, thick enough to stop time. "What is going on here?" Mr. Robinson roared, his voice thundering through the room. Fraud quickly stepped back, raising his hands in surrender. His voice shook as he pleaded, "Sir, please, it's not what it looks like, I swear. I didn't do anything." But before he could say more, Stephanie ran to her father, sobbing uncontrollably. She clung tightly to his arm, her body shaking. "Daddy, he tried to force himself on me," she cried, her voice breaking. "I told him no, but he wouldn't listen." Stephanie cried. Mr. Robinson's face turned red with fury. His fists clenched as he turned to Fraud. "How dare you?" he bellowed. Fraud frantically shook his head. "No, sir, she's lying. I didn't do anything," he pleaded. "She came in here and—" "Enough!" Mr. Robinson roared, his voice thundering through the room. "Fraud!" Mr. Robinson's voice echoed through the room, filled with disbelief. He couldn't comprehend what he was seeing. "How could you do this to my daughter?" he gasped, his voice trembling as if his heart had just shattered. His eyes shifted to Stephanie, standing by the bed. Her clothes were torn, her hair messy, and tears streamed down her face. "Fraud," Mr. Robinson said again, his voice heavy with pain. "I trusted you. I gave you everything, and this is how you repay me? How could you?" Mr. Robinson shouted, his voice filled with pain and anger. Fraud dropped to his knees, desperation in his eyes. "Sir, please, I'm innocent. I didn't do what she said," he cried, his voice breaking. But Mr. Robinson wouldn't listen. His heart was too heavy with betrayal. Meanwhile, Stephanie sobbed uncontrollably, her body shaking with every tear. Stephanie stood there, looking like she had just been through something terrible, but to Fraud, her tears were nothing but all lies. Without a second thought, Mr. Robinson grabbed his phone and called the police. Minutes later, the wailing of sirens filled the air, even from a distance, growing louder as officers arrived at the mansion. "Arrest him!" Mr. Robinson, he commanded, his voice trembling with rage. He pointed straight at Fraud. "He forced himself on my daughter." Fraud remained on his knees, his face soaked with tears. "Please, sir, I swear I didn't do it," he pleaded, his voice cracking with desperation. "Please, I didn't do anything. You have to believe me," Fraud begged. But the officers didn't listen. They snapped the handcuffs tightly around his wrists and dragged him toward their van. Fraud cried out, shouting over and over that he was innocent, but no one listened, no one cared. Before he could even process what was happening, the news spread like wildfire. Faster than he could keep up with, headlines lit up every screen. "Billionaire's driver accused of assaulting his daughter." The news spread fast, and soon the police station was swarming with reporters. Cameras flashed and microphones were pushed into Mr. Robinson's face as journalists scrambled for a statement. Meanwhile, Fraud's fiancée, Catherine, rushed into the station with her best friend, Maureen. Her face was red with fury. The moment she saw Fraud, she exploded. "How could you?" she shouted. "So it's true, isn't it?" Catherine yelled. "What I heard is true. You chose to disgrace me, Fraud." Her friend Maureen quickly stepped in, trying to calm her down. "Catherine, wait. Let's hear what Fraud has to say first before jumping to conclusions." But Catherine wasn't listening. She was too angry, too hurt. "I'm innocent, honey," Fraud cried, his voice desperate as he tried to explain. "Don't ever call me honey again." Catherine shouted, cutting him off. She turned her back on him and stormed out of the police station, her anger burning like fire. Fraud stood frozen, helpless, his heart shattering into pieces. Later, when Mr. Robinson arrived at the station, Fraud rushed to him, desperation in his eyes. "Sir, please, listen to me," he pleaded, his voice shaking. Mr. Robinson hesitated. He was torn, unsure of who to believe. After a long silence, he finally took a step toward Fraud, deciding to at least hear him out. "Sir," Fraud began, his voice full of desperation, "please, believe me, your daughter, she's been trying to make me sleep with her. I refused, but she wouldn't stop. This isn't the first time or the second or even the third. Just 2 days ago, she trapped me in the hallway and tried to kiss me. I ran for my life, and today she threatened to accuse me if I didn't give in to her. Please, sir, I swear I'm innocent. You have to believe me." Mr. Robinson stood still, his mind racing. The words didn't seem real. It was too much to process and doesn't seem to make sense to him at all. "You're a liar, Fraud!" Mr. Robinson shouted, his voice filled with pain. "I trusted you. I treated you like family. And this is how you repay me?" Tears streamed down Fraud's face as he dropped to his knees, sobbing. Please, I didn't do it," he cried. But Mr. Robinson didn't listen. He turned away and walked out, his heart too heavy to bear. The moment he stepped outside, reporters swarmed him, bombarding him with questions. "Sir, what do you think about the situation?" one reporter asked, pushing a microphone in his face. Mr. Robinson didn't answer. His mind was spinning, lost in deep thought. Could his daughter be lying? When he got home, an uneasy feeling gnawed at him. Something didn't feel right. Without wasting time, he rushed to his office and began checking the footage from the secret cameras he had installed around the house. The first video he played made his stomach twist. There in the hallway was Stephanie trying to touch Fraud in a way that clearly made him uncomfortable. Fraud pushed her away and quickly walked off. Mr. Robinson froze. Could this really be true? Was his daughter lying? He clicked on another video. This time it was in the living room. Stephanie sat close to Fraud, whispering in his ear. She reached out to touch him again, but Fraud moved away, clearly avoiding her. Mr. Robinson's heart pounded. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. The pieces were falling into place. His daughter had been lying. His hands trembled as realization sank in. Mr. Robinson called Stephanie. His voice was unsteady. "Stephanie," he said, his tone heavy with tension, "tell me the truth. Is what you said earlier true?" Stephanie, pretending to cry, made her voice shaky. "Yes, Daddy," she whispered. He forced himself on me." Mr. Robinson clenched his fists, his face dark with anger. His voice was sharp. "Have you ever tried to seduce him before?" Stephanie gasped, eyes widening in shock. "Me? How could I do that, Daddy? I would never," Stephanie said, her voice shaking. But Mr. Robinson didn't believe her. Without a word, he played the security footage. The videos showed Stephanie trying to touch Fraud in ways that were completely inappropriate. "Stop lying and answer my question," Mr. Robinson yelled, his anger growing. Stephanie stood still, unable to say a word. Her face turned pale as it hit her. Her father knew everything. After a long silence, Stephanie finally spoke, her voice trembling. "Fraud didn't force himself on me. I was just angry because he rejected me. I thought if I made him look bad, maybe you'd finally notice me." Mr. Robinson's eyes widened in shock. "What? You made this up?" he shouted, his voice filled with pain. "How could you lie about something so serious?" Stephanie's eyes welled up with tears, but they weren't from guilt. They were tears of frustration. "It's your fault, Daddy," Stephanie cried. "You never let me talk to anyone, have a boyfriend, or even be friends with a guy. Froth was the only one who was there for me." Her voice shook with anger. "You kept me locked up like a prisoner while you lived your life freely. You never cared about me." Mr. Robinson stood frozen, his heart breaking. "You're evil," he whispered, shaking his head. "I can't believe you would do this. You've destroyed everything, our family, our name. How could you?" Stephanie didn't say another word. She turned and stormed out of the room, leaving her father standing there, shattered. The weight of everything that had happened was too much to handle. That night, Mr. Robinson couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned in bed, his mind racing. "What do I do now?" he thought. "How can I go out and tell the world that Fraud is innocent? My reputation, my daughter's image, everything will be ruined." His thoughts spiraled, the pressure suffocating him. "No, I can't say he's innocent," he whispered to himself, his forehead damp with sweat. "The world already believes the worst about him." The next morning, Mr. Robinson called Stephanie into the sitting room. His voice was cold and firm. "Stephanie, you cannot tell anyone that Fraud is innocent," he said sharply. "Do you understand? You started this and now the whole world knows about it. We can't back down. We can't risk making things worse." Stephanie stood frozen, shocked by his words. "Dad, are we really going to let him go to prison for something he didn't do?" she asked softly, doubt creeping into her voice. Mr. Robinson's eyes narrowed, his expression turning cold and unyielding. "Yes, Stephanie, this is the only way now. It's too late to change anything," Mr. Robinson said firmly. Days passed, turning into weeks, and soon the day of the court hearing arrived. Fraud was brought into the courtroom, his hands trembling. His family sat in the front row, their faces filled with worry. Mr. Robinson and his associates sat nearby, along with Fraud's fiancée, Catherine, and her best friend, Maureen. The air was thick with tension. Everyone was waiting. The judge cleared his throat and the room fell silent. Every eye was on him as he flipped through his notes. "Mr. Fraud Williams," the judge called out, his voice echoing through the courtroom. "Please rise," the judge ordered. Fraud stood slowly, his legs weak beneath him. The walls of the courtroom felt like they were closing in. He tried to stay strong, but inside he was falling apart. The judge took a deep breath before speaking again. "After reviewing the evidence and hearing all arguments, this court finds you guilty of sexual molestation. You are sentenced to 9 years in prison." Fraud's knees gave out, and he collapsed to the floor. His cries echoed through the silent courtroom. "I'm innocent, please, I didn't do it," he sobbed, his voice breaking with desperation. Fraud's mother broke down, sobbing for her son, but no one paid attention. Catherine, her eyes filled with tears, walked up to Fraud. She slowly removed her wedding ring, holding it for a moment before letting it fall to the floor in front of him. "I'm done with you, Fraud. Goodbye," she said, her voice shaking. Without another word, she turned and walked away, her steps firm, as if her heart had turned to stone. Fraud stared at the ring on the ground, frozen in place. He couldn't tell what hurt more, the prison sentence or losing Catherine. Maureen, who had been standing quietly beside Catherine, stepped forward. She wanted to talk, to make her see reason, but Catherine wouldn't listen. "I can't do this anymore, Maureen," Catherine said, her voice firm. "I can't be with him, not after everything." Her eyes were cold, distant. Maureen felt helpless but tried one last time. "Please, just think about it. What if he's innocent?" Catherine shook her head. "I don't care anymore, Maureen. It's over." As the police dragged Fraud out of the courtroom, the reality of it all sank in. His whole world was crumbling before his eyes. Stephanie sat still, staring blankly, her heart far away from the chaos around her. "Please, Stephanie," Fraud whispered, his voice trembling as the officers pulled him away. "Tell them the truth. I'm innocent. Please, don't let me go to prison for something I didn't do." But Stephanie stayed silent. She never looked at him. The police pushed him into the van, and the doors slammed shut behind him. Days turned into weeks. The world moved on, forgetting about Fraud as new scandals took over the headlines. But Catherine? She never visited him in prison, not even once. Maureen, though, was different. Maureen visited Fraud as often as she could, always trying to comfort him, telling him things would get better. One day, during a visit, Fraud finally broke down in front of her. His voice was thick with emotion and his tears flowed uncontrollably. "I'm innocent, Maureen," he sobbed. I don't know how to make the world believe me anymore. Everyone has turned their back on me. My friends, my fiancé, even my dad, they've all left me." Maureen's heart ached as she watched him fall apart. She had always believed in him, but seeing him so broken and alone was almost more than she could handle. "I'm the only one left," Fraud whispered, his voice full of pain. "It's only you and my mom who still care. Thank you, Maureen. Thank you for believing in me." Maureen felt a surge of anger and determination rise within her. She couldn't stand seeing Fraud suffer like this. She promised herself that she would do whatever it took to get him justice. She would fight for him, even if it meant standing against everyone else. "I'll do whatever I can, Fraud," Maureen said, her voice firm, filled with determination. "I promise you. I'll make sure the truth comes out. I won't let them do this to you," Maureen vowed. Fraud nodded, his eyes full of gratitude. He felt that with Maureen by his side, there was a chance, just maybe, he would get the justice he deserved. 3 years later, Maureen sat on her bed, scrolling through job postings online without much focus when something caught her attention. A job opening for a cleaner at Mr. Robinson's mansion. Her heart raced. Could this be my chance, Maureen thought? For 3 years, she couldn't stop thinking about Fraud, locked away for something he didn't do. She had promised to help him, but time had slipped away. Now, fate had given her an opportunity. Maureen didn't know exactly how she would get justice for Fraud, but one thing was clear. This was a chance she couldn't ignore. Without thinking twice, she applied for the job. A few days later, her phone rang. It was from Mr. Robinson's mansion. "Miss Maureen, you've been selected for the cleaning position. Can you start next week?" Maureen could hardly hold back her excitement. "Yes, I'll be there," she replied, trying to sound calm. That evening, she hurried to the prison to tell Fraud the good news. When he saw her walk into the visiting area, Fraud gave a weak smile. He looked thinner, and his once bright eyes were now clouded with sorrow. "I have something to tell you," Maureen whispered, leaning in closer. "I got a job at Mr. Robinson's house." Fraud's eyes widened in shock. "What? How?" Fraud asked, his voice filled with disbelief. "I saw the job posting and applied. They hired me," Maureen explained. Fraud ran his hand over his face, still shaking his head. "Maureen, do you realize what you're getting into? That place is dangerous. If they find out why you're there—" "I know," she interrupted, determination in her eyes. "That's why I need your help. Do you have any idea how I can prove your innocence?" Fraud paused for a moment, then lowered his voice. "Yes, but it won't be easy," Fraud said quietly. "Mr. Robinson has secret cameras in his house. If you can find them and get footage of Stephanie forcing herself on me, that will be the proof I need." Maureen's heart raced. This was dangerous. If she got caught, she could face serious consequences, but if she succeeded, Fraud could finally be free. She met his tired gaze and nodded firmly. "I'll do it." Fraud exhaled shakily and took her hands in his. "Thank you, Maureen. You don't know how much this means to me." Maureen squeezed his hands firmly. "I won't stop until the truth comes out." As she left the prison that evening, fear and determination mixed inside her. The battle for justice had just begun. Maureen had started her new job as a cleaner at Mr. Robinson's mansion. The house was huge, with tall gates and shiny floors that mirrored her every move. But Maureen wasn't just there to clean. She had a mission: to expose Stephanie, Mr. Robinson's spoiled and rude daughter. Her plan was to get close to Stephanie, become friends with her, and uncover the truth. However, it didn't take long for Maureen to realize that Stephanie wasn't someone who could be easily won over. She was rude, arrogant, and cruel. A true spoiled brat, Maureen thought with a sigh, but she quickly reminded herself, "I won't give up. I'll find another way." One day, while cleaning, Maureen noticed the bedroom door to Mr. Robinson's room was slightly open. She froze when she saw him inside, watching something on his computer. Secret camera footage. Her heart raced as she realized this could be the proof she needed to expose Stephanie's lies. But there was a problem. The computer was in Mr. Robinson's bedroom, a place she couldn't access without risking getting caught. Months went by, and Maureen patiently waited for the right moment. Then, Stephanie's birthday came. That night, the house was alive with music, laughter, and the sound of clinking glasses. People were drinking, dancing, and celebrating, but Maureen refused to drink. She needed to stay alert. As the party came to an end and the guests slowly left, she noticed Stephanie and her dad sitting drunkenly in the living room, laughing and slurring their words. Maureen knew this was her moment. Silently, she made her way upstairs to Mr. Robinson's room. Her hands shook as she carefully opened the door and slipped inside. The computer sat on the desk, its faint glow lighting up the dark room. Maureen quickly began searching through the files, her fingers flying across the keyboard. She scanned through folders and videos, her heart racing with each passing second. But the video she needed, the one about fraud, wasn't there. Feeling frustrated, Maureen was about to give up when she decided to check the recycle bin. And there it was, a video showing Stephanie trying to force herself on Fraud, who was desperately pushing her away. Maureen froze, her body trembling. So it's true, she thought. Without wasting another moment, she pulled out her phone to record the crucial evidence. Suddenly, the door swung open. Mr. Robinson stood in the doorway, looking tipsy with his eyes half closed as he stumbled toward the bed. Maureen's heart raced, almost jumping out of her chest. She quickly crawled under the desk, holding her breath. Mr. Robinson sat on the bed for a moment, then collapsed onto it. Maureen stayed hidden, waiting until his soft snores filled the room. Carefully, she crawled out, grabbed a spare key she spotted on the dresser, and quietly slipped out. Back in her room, she sat on her bed, clutching her phone, her hands shaking. Her hand shook uncontrollably. I was so close to being caught, she thought, her heart pounding in her chest. The next morning, Mr. Robinson left for work. Maureen knew this was her best chance. With the stolen spare key, she quietly snuck back into his room. She quickly turned on the computer and started recording the evidence. Just as she was about to leave, her elbow brushed against a glass on the table. It tumbled to the floor and shattered, the sound echoing loudly through the still house. Maureen froze, her breath caught in her throat. Downstairs, Stephanie, who was eating breakfast, heard the noise. She rushed upstairs, shouting, "Who's there?" Maureen quickly ducked under the desk again, her heart racing. Stephanie stormed into the room, her eyes searching the space. She noticed the broken glass on the floor and her nerves kicked in. "Who's here? Show yourself," she yelled. With shaking hands, Stephanie called the security guards on her phone. "Come to my dad's room now. Someone's in here." Maureen knew she had to act fast. She stepped out from under the desk and faced Stephanie. "You," she said. "What are you doing in my dad's room, you poor maid?" Maureen shot her a fierce glare. "Shut up, Stephanie. 3 years ago, you lied about Frog. You accused him of something terrible and it destroyed his life." Stephanie smirked. "And how is that any of your business?" Maureen stepped forward, her voice steady. "It's my business because I have the proof now." She held up her phone. "See you and your dad in prison." Stephanie's smirk faded, her face turning pale. You have the video?" Just then, the security guards burst into the room. Stephanie yelled, "Catch her! Tie her up!" Maureen quickly raised her phone. "Don't you dare touch me or I'll upload this video right now. One wrong move and everyone will see what you've done." Maureen's voice was calm, but her words were a clear threat. The guards hesitated, looking at Stephanie for guidance. Stephanie growled, "Stop! Don't touch her!" Desperate, Stephanie asked, "What do you want? Money? How much?" Maureen looked her in the eye and said, $2 million. "What? That's crazy," Stephanie shouted. "Take it or leave it," Maureen replied, her tone firm. Stephanie sighed. "Fine, let me call my dad." Maureen nodded. "Tell your guards to let me go first." With a reluctant sigh, Stephanie ordered the guards to step back. Maureen moved toward the door, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. Each step felt heavy as her heart raced in her chest. She had the evidence, the video that could expose Stephanie and Mr. Robinson. The victory was so close, and all she needed now was to make it out of the mansion safely. As Maureen neared the exit, she didn't see a shadow lurking in the corner. Without warning, a security guard leapt out and knocked the phone from her hand. It flew through the air, crashing to the floor. Maureen gasped and reached for it, but it was too late. The guard grabbed her roughly, twisting her arms behind her. "Got you," he sneered. "Let me go," Maureen screamed, desperately trying to break free. His grip was too tight for Maureen to escape. Stephanie came rushing into the room, her heels echoing loudly on the marble floor. She saw Maureen's phone lying on the ground and grinned. "You thought you were clever, huh?" Stephanie said, picking up the phone. With one quick movement, she slammed it onto the floor. The screen shattered and pieces scattered everywhere. She stomped on it repeatedly until it was destroyed. "Now you have nothing?" Stephanie laughed maliciously. "Tie her up." The guard hauled Maureen over to a chair, and 2 more guards quickly joined to help. They began tying her hands and feet tightly with rough ropes. Maureen winced, feeling the ropes burn against her wrists. Stephanie stood in front of her, arms crossed, a smug look on her face. "So what's your plan now, little maid? Did you really think you could beat me? You're nothing." Despite the pain, Maureen managed a small smirk. "Do you think I'm that stupid, Stephanie?" Stephanie's confident smile began to fade. "What are you talking about?" Before Maureen could answer, a loud, shrill sound cut through the air, the blaring wail of police sirens. Stephanie froze, her eyes wide with shock. "No," she whispered, shaking her head in disbelief. The front door suddenly burst open, and police officers rushed into the mansion. The guards immediately released Maureen and raised their hands in surrender. The officers moved swiftly, arresting each one of them one by one. Mr. Robinson arrived just as everything fell apart. "What's going on here?" he demanded, but his voice shook with fear. "You're under arrest," one officer said, handcuffing him. "We have evidence against you and your daughter," the officer continued. Maureen, now free from the ropes, stood up and walked over to Mr. Robinson's computer. "The evidence is here," she said. The officers retrieved the memory card with the secret video. They took it along with Maureen's statement, closing the case. Stephanie and Mr. Robinson were led out of the mansion in handcuffs. Their heads hung low. In court, the truth was revealed. The evidence Maureen had collected proved Fraud's innocence and exposed Stephanie's lies. The judge sentenced Mr. Robinson and Stephanie to years in prison. They were also ordered to pay Fraud $7 million in compensation. Fraud was finally freed. Tears filled his eyes as he embraced Maureen. "You saved my life," he said, his voice shaking. Maureen smiled softly. "You didn't deserve what happened to you, Fraud. I'm just happy I could help," Maureen said. With the money from the compensation, Fraud bought a new house and started thinking about a fresh beginning. A few days later, Fraud was relaxing at home when he heard a knock on the door. When he opened it, he found Catherine, his ex-fiancée, standing there. "Fraud," she said, her eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I was wrong to leave you." Fraud stared at her, his face unreadable. Catherine kept talking. "I even bought a new ring to replace the one I threw away. Let's start fresh. Please, Fraud," she pleaded. She opened a small velvet box to show him a sparkling diamond ring. Fraud sighed heavily. "Catherine, do you remember what you did to me? At the lowest point of my life, you left me. You broke my heart when I needed you the most." "I'm sorry," Catherine whispered, her voice soft. "I'll do anything to make it right." Fraud shook his head. "It's too late, Catherine. Someone else has already given me the love and support you couldn't." Catherine's eyes widened in shock. "What do you mean? Who?" Fraud turned and called out, "Honey, can you come here?" Maureen stepped into the doorway, her hand resting on the doorframe. A diamond ring sparkled on her finger, the same one Fraud had given to Catherine years ago. Catherine froze, her face going pale. "Maureen, what are you doing with my boyfriend?" Fraud stepped closer to Catherine. "Leave, Catherine, leave now," he ordered firmly. "Don't ever come back here." Catherine's lips trembled as tears flowed down her face. She turned and ran out of the house, sobbing. Fraud closed the door and turned to Maureen. "Thank you for everything. Thank you for always being there for me. I wouldn't be here without you. You've shown me real kindness and love. I love you now, and I'll love you forever." Maureen smiled, her eyes sparkling with joy. "You don't have to thank me, Fraud. We're a team now. We're each other's companions and best friends. I've got you, Fraud, and I can't wait to spend forever with you." Fraud leaned in and kissed Maureen deeply, holding her close in a tight embrace. They both smiled, gazing into each other's eyes with admiration and love. Together, Fraud and Maureen started their new life, full of hope, respect, and a deep love for one another. Their home flourished with joy and treasured moments. Did you learn anything from this story? Please kindly share your opinion and tell us which country you are watching from. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you could see more videos from me on this channel. Thank you so much.